Hey everybody, it's Pastor Matthew Best from St. Stephen Lutheran Church, New Kingstown. You can find us on the web at ststephenlc.org, which is ststephenlc.org. You can find my own writing, more videos and whatnot at pastormatthewbest.com. Okay, it is time for Tough Topic Tuesday. And today's tough topic is a topic I never thought I was going to have to actually talk about. But apparently, this is what happens. You start getting to some topics that you're like, I never thought I would have to do this. I never thought I would do a tough topic on conspiracy theories and things like that. So I'm doing the tough topic on critical thinking. This should be something that is not a tough topic, but it is because there seems to be a vast struggle with critical thinking. So let's start with a definition of what is critical thinking. I'm using this from dictionary.com. Critical thinking is disciplined thinking that is clear, rational, open-minded, and informed by evidence. It's a great definition, and I think everybody who hears that would be like, oh yeah, no problem, I see that. But let's take each one of those words for just a moment, and let's define what those are. So disciplined is rigorous. Think about it this way, right? What is, when you think about when somebody is disciplined, I'm not talking about in the sense of disciplining somebody, but somebody who does something on a regular basis, who has gone through some kind of level of training maybe, or a regimen or something, whether they're doing it with somebody else or on their own, self-imposed. Disciplined means that this is a regular ongoing regimen, right? So this could take place, think about athletes do this, students do this in school, right? Disciplined, right? Christians were supposed to be disciplined in this way as well. So that's what discipline is. Thinking, what is thinking? Thinking is using your brain, right? And thinking is not knee-jerk reaction. It's not reaction. Thinking is different than reaction. This is important. Again, I didn't think I was going to have to talk about critical thinking, but it's our tough topic. Thinking is allowing things to go through your brain, to have a conversation with yourself, to question those type of things. So disciplined thinking is a regimen of thinking, right? And it's not just taking something at face value. It's stopping and saying, okay, let's examine this. What questions do we have in relation to this, right? So that's what disciplined thinking is. That is clear. So think about it in terms of sight, right? Clear means that you can see clearly. You can see what's ahead of you. You can see what's around you, as opposed to only seeing a little bit or it being foggy. Rational again gets away from emotional reaction. Rational is very much in the head type of thing. It allows for detachment. Critical thinking has to do with detachment as well, so that we're not attached to certain ideas or identities or tribes or whatever else the case may be. You're given information, you're examining it, and you're thinking about it, asking questions and engaging with it is the idea, to determine what is truthful. So the other part of this is open-minded. This is where the detachment comes from things. Open-minded means I may not have all of the answers, and so I need to engage with the information that is presented to me to determine if I need to change in order to match up with what is the truth. And then informed by evidence. Not what I think, or not what I want to believe, or not what fits whatever spin that I happen to prefer. Think about what scientists do. They have a hypothesis, and they don't go and find data to support their hypothesis. They test the hypothesis, and then as a result, they get data. And that data either will confirm the hypothesis or it will blow holes in it. If it blows holes in it, scientists don't get upset and go, oh, this is fake news and all this. No. They say, oh, okay, my hypothesis was wrong. So I need to change. I must have missed something. right? Same thing, we can do this in a religious sense as well, right? Disciplined thinking, critical thinking is not something that is against Christianity. No, not at all. In fact, it's very much a part of what it means to be a faithful person, I would argue. There are strains of Christianity that would disagree with that. Those who have a more fundamentalist outlook in their Christianity do not generally encourage critical thinking. It's an acceptance of here's the word and that's it, and you need to accept it and whatnot. That's been the experience that I have seen with and what I have read. I don't say that just as my own just opinion. So critical thinking, why? Why did I choose critical thinking as the tough topic? Because I think we really lack in it in a lot of ways. There's so much spin. There are so many things that get thrown out that almost demand a knee-jerk reaction to them. And I just want to encourage you that knee-jerk reactions are not critical thinking. They're not helpful. They're not helpful to anybody, actually. What they do is they put us into fear, into anger. They put us into wide swings of emotional responses. Now, I also want to be clear that emotion is not a bad thing. This is not a either or type of thing, right? I just want to be really clear about that. Emotion is not a negative, and rationality is not always a positive either, right? You can be cold in your rationality, and that's not what this is about either. But when we have emotional response without critical thinking, you're going to have some emotional responses to things, and that's normal. Nothing wrong with that, right? You see something, somebody gets shot, you're going to have an emotional response because you're a human being. You should have an emotional response to those things. Allow that to happen because it's your body trying to tell you something. Emotions are our body trying to tell us something, to inform us of something. So there's nothing wrong with them. The problem happens is when we just stay there, that we don't utilize our entire bodies in figuring out how to go forward. Emotion is fine. It's there for a purpose. It serves a purpose. It's a positive thing. It's a good thing, right? Emotion is what will allow us to recognize that something is a danger. And so we'll get an emotional response to something. That's completely fine. The problem is when we completely stay in that world, or we stay in the completely rational world. That is not healthy either. We are made of both emotion and rationality, and the two work together. Critical thinking allows us to utilize those type of things. I'm just very concerned that there are a significant portion of folks who either have never been taught how to think critically, have ignored it, refused to do it, and for any number of reasons. Critical thinking is not easy. It takes work. This is why it's disciplined thinking. It takes work to do critical thinking, because what it does is there's a vulnerability that says that I may not have the answer, or the answer that I have may be wrong, and I need to be open to the possibility that I have to change what I believe about something, because my beliefs are not facts. My beliefs are beliefs, and they need to be examined against something. So one of the things that we can do with this critical thinking is I would encourage you to this is like a muscle, essentially. Critical thinking is a muscle. And so one of the ways that you might want to do this is to purposely and intentionally read something you know you're going to disagree with, or watch something that you know you're going to disagree with. Reading is far better because it gives you an opportunity to stop in the middle of whatever you're reading and even go back if you need to read it again to make sure you're getting what is actually being said. When you read something that you know you're going to disagree with, what you can do is you can start to pay attention to what are your reactions. What's your initial reaction? If you're upset by something, what exactly is upsetting you? So you can critically think about, what is it that's upsetting me? Not necessarily, don't read something that you disagree with, that you know you're going to disagree with. Don't read it with the idea of trying to blow holes into the arguments. That's not the point of why you do this. The point of why you're doing this is to learn something about yourself. What triggers you? What is it? What is it that upsets you? What is it that gets you into that emotional state? And then to be open to hearing, what is that? So that I know, is it justified? Is it something that I need to work on? Whatever the case may be. I can tell you that I do this. I read a variety of different news sources from across the spectrum. I do this to be informed, not necessarily of what the issues are, but to be informed of what are the arguments that people are making that I'm going to have to come across. I come across people from a variety of different places and different ways of thinking. I need to be prepared for those arguments that are going to be presented to me. Where are they coming from? What's the mindset that goes with it? So that when I respond, I'm not responding from an emotional standpoint in which I may say something that I might regret. I may look past the importance of the relationship that I have with somebody and look past that and get to, I have to be right. Critical thinking moves past the idea of being right as the most important. We oftentimes make being right into an idol that we worship, and that is not what we're supposed to do, right? The idea of all of these conversations is not to be right and to convince the other person that they're wrong and that they should change. That's just not going to happen. Just realistically, that's just not going to happen. But the relationship is important. You see this throughout Scripture. The gospel reading that's coming up deals with this as well. Paul's letter to the Romans deals with how we relate with people, especially chapter 12, chapter 13. I'd encourage you to read those and kind of see how does Paul deal with this. He doesn't call it critical thinking, of course, but I think it deals with critical thinking. So critical thinking, really important. It's something that is very lacking in a lot of our culture currently, and I think that's really sad. And we're not going to change anybody else into this, but we have a responsibility in how we go forward as well, right? So again, I love this definition here. Disciplined thinking that is clear, rational, open-minded, and informed by evidence. And I will tell you that matches up with faith. Faith is not irrational. Now, definitions are important again, right? So rationality is being able to prove something, right? Faith is believing something that can't be proved. So by definition, faith is irrational. However, I'm using it a little bit differently in the sense that God has given us reason to be able to do things, right? And so while by definition faith is irrational, it doesn't mean that we go and we respond to things irrationally. It doesn't mean that we insist on this, or that we go around and say, well, you don't agree with what I believe, so all of a sudden now you're condemned and this, that, and the other thing, right? That's not critical thinking. That's not faithful response to things either. It's really important. Faith is not the certainty of the answers for everything. Faith certainly offers some answers, but that's not the realm of what faith is about. Faith, I think, matches up with critical thinking in the sense that it's always a search for truth. It's full of questions and it can handle doubts. Critical thinking can handle doubts. Critical thinking can handle questions. And recognizing that when we ask a question, it should lead us to more questions, not necessarily to answers, but to more questions. So, critical thinking. I just want to encourage you in this process of life that even though we come across folks who do not engage in critical thinking, your responsibility is to be a critical thinker. When somebody has an irrational emotional response to things, it's not to jump where they are, it's to stay where you are and to be open to dialogue and conversation and to critical thinking. If you've got thoughts, questions, I welcome them. Just put them in the comments section, and I hope you have a great and blessed day.